We've learnt about the Balanced Scorecard, but what is the Balanced Scorecard approach to performance evaluation? Performance management is the body of knowledge that the Balanced Scorecard fits into. And what performance management is a system that uses data regularly so that an organization can achieve its goal. Any system that uses data to drive organizational performance fits into this body of knowledge called performance management. Performance management can apply both to organizations and to employee performance. So let's look at the relationship between the two. Alright, so performance management is a way that successful organizations are finding ways to measure more than just financial health. They want to know how their employees or their organization is performing and what they can do to extend this learning or performance. So in the context of employees, what we want to do is think about how performance management is ideally an ongoing conversation between supervisors and employees to support and eventually accomplish strategic objectives of an organization. So it's a focused, scheduled conversation. Now, organizations are generally structured in this very hierarchical way. They have this top management, the executives, and then we have the workers at the bottom. However, they operate in very complex ways. Organizations are not very simple things. The work of Bowman and Deal in reframing organizations exemplifies this. And your organization might have a different shape. In theory, the organizational chart might look something like this, but in reality, it's sometimes hard to decipher the connections between everything. And so what we need to do is use data to help us make sense of whether what people are doing actually is helping us move towards our organizational objectives. So if an organization is complex, how can we actually measure anyone's performance other than the finances, which is very easy? Are we making a profit or are we making a loss? And what we do is we think through how the perspectives of the organization, of the Balanced Scorecard, the mission, the customer service, the internal processes, the learning and knowledge, and the finances helps us think about our employees. And I'm talking specifically about employees at this moment, okay? So how can the employees align their work with the mission of the organization? How can employees align their performance with the needs and wants of customers? How can internal processes be tweaked to increase the efficiency of employee performance? In what ways can learning and knowledge be intentional to improve employee performance? And how can we demonstrate closer links between employee performance and financial health of the organization? As a manager, these are the guiding questions that you need to be asking in your check-ins or your performance evaluation reviews with your employees. And we're going to be diving more into that throughout this course. But let's think about how it helps us actually do this, right? So what the Balanced Scorecard does is it gives us a rationale for eliminating unnecessary work by giving us targets. And those targets link back, I'm going to go back to these perspectives, okay? So you as the manager need to really be in tune with those perspectives. All right, it enables employees to quickly identify problems and change course. You as a manager will need to help employees achieve this, identify where they might be going off track, okay? And shift focus from performance as an annual event by cultivating an ongoing process of performance evaluation. All right. Now, the second piece, so I've spoke about it being a set of perspectives that you need to be very familiar with. The second thing is that you need to do this regularly and use your management skills to guide employees should they be going away from the target set. But there's a third piece, and that is focusing on the inputs. So there's one thing going off track. There's another thing ensuring that the inputs that you are putting in actually are resulting in the outputs that help us reach the target. Let me give you an example of this. An employee is for a company that produces candy, units of candy. This employee might be, and one of the internal processes is that this employee needs to use a software system to produce 50 units of candy every day. All right, this is just an example. Now, on paper, that employee might be using their time to spread their time over, let's say they could do this within 1 hour, but you're giving them a day, all right? And so the input time is not resulting in an efficient output, which is production. So what you've got to do is, in that case, once you've identified that it actually takes an hour to produce 50 units of this product, you could then really use the Balanced Scorecard to focus the attention on setting clear performance expectations, results, actions, and behaviors. In that sense, you would say, okay, I can see that you can produce 50 of these units in 1 hour as opposed to 8 hours. I'm actually going to ask you to produce 8 times 50, which is 400 units in the space of your shift, which is 8 hours. Okay, and that's because you continually know that this person, although they're in line, they're producing the units, you have to think deeply about the nuances of that performance. In other words, you have to think about the alignment between your organization, and as a manager, you have to bring in and ensure that what is happening is actually aligned to the perspectives in the organization. So before we go forward, let me just recap a little bit about what we've spoken about. We've spoken about performance management as a system that uses data so that an organization can achieve its goals. The second thing we've done is we've looked at the perspectives, and I've outlined key questions that should guide you in any check-in with an employee. Thirdly, I've demonstrated that it's not only about the outputs and whether they're aligned, but scrutinizing the inputs and how those inputs help us think about results, behaviors, and activities. And finally, you need to think about whether all of those are in alignment or not. So the key question is, are you a measurer or are you a manager? A measurer is someone who thinks about whether you or your employees are hitting their goals. A manager is thinking strategically about how the inputs actually result in greater outputs. So it's not just about hitting the goals, it's about exceeding them. Let me use that in another way. So a measurer is someone who can measure the percentage to goal. But a manager is thinking strategically about how to increase the performance of their employees in their organization. And so what you have to continually do is balance both your measurement skills and your management skills. And the balance is the key challenge to you as a manager. One of the main challenges you will face is communicating both your understanding of the measurement, in other words, what the data is saying, and the management, what we can do or what we can apply or what tools or next steps we need to take to increase that performance. So your challenge that I put to you as you learn about these measurement techniques, which is what the Balanced Scorecard does, is to transform the measurement to the management. To think about what the numbers are telling you and how you can apply that knowledge to improve the organizational performance and the employee performance.